Hi, I'm Lena, and I want to tell you a true story about a secret buried within my heart about my daughter and her birth father. Chrissy and I, being sisters who love each other so much, we are virtually twins. Unfortunately, life was unfair to my sister, who was born with a physical disability in her legs that made her a disabled person who can't walk without the aid of a crutch. All through life, I felt guilty because I was prettier than she was and was loved by boys, and later, men. Even with all that, I still remained focused and worked very hard in my studies. I received a scholarship and got admitted to study engineering in the United States. And since Chrissy and I were very close, we parted with great difficulty and with tears on the day I left to join my university. And I promised not to forget her and to communicate with her regularly by all means available to me. Shortly after I arrived in the United States, I got to know Sam, a young man from my country, and we quickly became lovers. Things went so well between us, until I found myself pregnant with my beloved in my last university year. It was a big shock, and I ran to him, crying to fix that problem quickly. But Sam refused to marry me, arguing that he had to work hard for his future and was not willing to sacrifice his dreams for something or anyone. Also, I found out that he was not in love with me, but had a special affection, as he called it. He asked me to undergo an abortion in order to continue with a relationship. I was disgusted by his reaction, and I left him right away. But I didn't kill my fetus because I didn't want the baby to be hurt at any cost. Sam didn't know of my decision because I cut all contact between us. And because fate works so well, it happened that my neighbor John, one of my best friends, was in love with me secretly. When I told him about my exact situation and asked for his opinion, he offered to marry me. Of course, I would not reject such an offer, because then I would have found a father to my baby and a sincere and loving husband, and I was sure John would do his best to make me happy. We got married quickly and only told my parents and sister the news by phone. The years went by, and my daughter Rima grew up among loving parents. I was not wrong about John, who made me forget my bad adventure with Sam, and how he let me down. In the meantime, my sister Chrissy had finally found herself a man, and she always contacted me to tell me about Samir, who was able to overcome her exterior appearance and see her inner beauty. My sister was indeed a wonderful girl. Her heart was white, and she was kind. I was glad for her, and finally happy for her. Chrissy had decided that she would not marry if I did not come, so I did what I could to go to the country with my husband and daughter. It was an opportunity to see my family. Thus John, who had never visited our remote country, would also be introduced to the traditions of my dear country. We made the necessary reservations and flew into the country a day before the wedding. At the airport, the whole family was waiting for us, and I hugged them, especially my sister, who insisted on coming despite her painful handicap. I had left them 10 years ago, and that meeting was important to all of us. We spent the next day preparing for the wedding, and I was filled with joy. The day arrived, and I saw my sister in her white dress, and she was very beautiful too. I didn't feel any jealousy, because I didn't have a traditional wedding, as she deserved the best. I helped her get to the hall, and was excited to get to know the groom who was waiting for us. But when I saw him, my heart suddenly stopped beating. Sam was standing in front of me in a formal uniform, smiling. I could not believe my eyes, and I thought I was hallucinating, as it was impossible. I didn't think for a moment that Sam and Samir were the same person. How can I doubt that my ex-boyfriend and Rima's father was Chrissy's fiancé? Samir took Chrissy's hands and kissed them tenderly, and then finally looked at me. He froze, and my sister proudly told him, "My sister." "Your sister?" "Yes, darling. She came from the United States with her husband and daughter." Samir looked at my daughter, and he was shocked. It was not difficult for him to predict her age and ignore the great similarity between him and her. Then he looked at me at length, and shook hands with me, then shook hands with John silently. I said to him, "Congratulations! I wish you both all the best. I insist that my sister be happy, and I will make sure that nothing affects this beautiful evening. Nothing." I entered the hall with my husband and daughter, and I left him to recognize what happened, but Chrissy did not notice anything. I did my best to avoid looking at Samir throughout the evening, and he did the same. But, just before we left, he passed by our table, and I understood that he wanted to talk to me. I followed him to the balcony. We had to have that conversation sooner or later. Samir told me, "I swear to you that I did not know that Chrissy is your sister. I know that, and I did not know that Sam is Samir." "Your daughter aborted, right?" "No, I kept my pregnancy, and I won't part with my daughter for any reason." "But she is my daughter." "No, she is not your daughter. When you asked me to kill her so as not to change your future projects, you lost that privilege. She is not your daughter because you have not done anything for her. John is her father anyway. She was adopted by him. She carries his name, and she loves him and knows no other, and so things will remain. I have rights. Listen to me well. I love Chrissy and Rima more than anyone in the world, and I will not allow anyone to make them sad. You chose to leave your daughter and chose to marry my sister, so I prevent you from saying a word, and you will carry this secret with you to the grave. You love my sister, so you can have a baby with her and leave my daughter alone. Don't ruin your life and the lives of others because of a father's temporary enthusiasm. Go to your wife now. She is waiting for you." Samir left, and I was shivering. I was not sure I was able to convince him to retreat from his fatherhood claims and keep the secret from Chrissy. The same evening, I packed our bags, and we flew back to the United States after a couple of hours. During the trip, I told John everything, but he was not surprised, because he had met Samir after seeing him repeatedly when I was in a relationship with him. And he was afraid of losing Rima, but I promised him that I would not allow Samir to take our daughter from us. Samir did not demand to take Rima, and apparently he did not say anything to my sister. They later had 2 sons together, but he died a few years later in a car accident. And so, he took our secret with him to the grave. Chrissy was saddened by Samir's death because he was her first and last love. But what relieved her tragedy was that I was able to persuade John to leave the States and move to my home country permanently. Today we are back as we were before, 2 conjunctival sisters, who no one or anything could separate them. I hope you enjoyed my story, and see you in the next story.